So, is everything on? Sound and everything great. So again, welcome to today's Sutta class. Half Sutta, half Ajahn Brahm. Because it's nice to give some context to the suttas and also to explain some of the suttas. That's where in Buddhism we have the suttas, and they're all really well printed. They've got all sorts of different translations, and as far as I'm concerned, there is no best translation or best rendering. And that's one of the reasons why, that you'll find the translation will change over the years. So, what I've written here, translations from the suttas, it will actually change over many years. And that PJ was just asking me, are you ever going to publish this? Or just leave it in manuscript? And I said yes. First time I said that. It was because there was this people in Hong Kong asked me first of all. And they said, can you publish this? And I thought for the first time, well, why not? It's not perfect. As soon as I published it, I will disagree with it. Because you always can see different words which are more useful, more inspiring, and more accurate. But more than the words, as I said in the first talk I gave on this, you translate phrases and sentences. I never said this at the time, but you've heard this before, that when many people learn English for the first time and it's not their mother tongue, and they hear these weird phrases, it was raining cats and dogs. And if you translated it into, say, Chinese, it would be absolutely ridiculous what you're saying. And people would be thinking, you can't say that. Have you ever seen a dog or a cat coming from the sky during a rainstorm? It's an idiom. So we translate the sentence or the phrase. You say it was just raining heavily. And that would be the correct translation. And a lot of the times people do use idioms. Even the Buddha used idioms. So you've got to understand exactly what he meant to say. And that gives the opportunity for people to translate really accurately, but also just very misleadingly. They may get it wrong. But the nice thing about the suttas, when you read the whole lot, they're so consistent. Pieces are repeated in so many different places. So because they're repeated in so many different places, you can get an understanding of what must be the true meaning of these ideas. So anyway, because this is not just for intellectual knowledge, but it's to help the meditation. And I always think the meditation is the most important, because in the I'll point it out later on, but in the meditation you're seeing things as they really are. They always used to say, it was a simile I heard years ago, and when I was giving a talk over in South Korea, and with one of the leaders of the Jogje order, it's a Mahayana Zen tradition, and when I was over there, I was really surprised. The master from the Jogje order was saying one of the stories which I tell often, and that was the story of the best way to see the full moon is to go up into the mountains and find a lake which is perfectly still, where there's no wind, there's no disturbance on the surface of the water, and see the moon as a reflection in the water. That's the most beautiful way. What that means, what it represents, is that when you look at the Dhamma, the truth, all these great insights, if you look at those insights and your mind is still restless, even slightly disturbed, it will distort the truth. You won't see what's there, you'll see what you want to see. and you'll be in denial of what challenges you too much. You'll block some things out. So you go when you get your mind very peaceful until all what we call these hindrances are gone. And then when you see, what you see, we see things as they truly are. It's one of the reasons why one of the phrases used by the Buddha again and again and again, so I'll say it in Pali because obviously the Pali is the most accurate that we can get to. Samadhi pacaya yata bhuta jnana dassana. It is the stillness which is the cause for seeing things as they truly are. Yata bhuta, as they really are, jnana dassana, the seeing, the wisdom. If the mind is not still, what you see is bent. And a good example of that, just in real life, there's on Tuesday evenings we used to go to a town quite close by, Armadale, and we had a group there, the Armadale group. It's still going, but it meets on YouTube now, or on Zoom or something. And one day, one of the people in the Armadale group, said, "You better talk to this lady, she's really in big trouble." So of course, you try the best to be compassionate. What was her problem? Her problem, this was many years ago, that she'd come home from work and the police and child protection services were there. At the school, they had found out that her 2 children were being abused by her husband. And of course, they think, straight, first of all, why couldn't she see that? The signs were there, but as a mother, you start to think that this was the guy I chose, the guy I married, this can't be happening. And you get in denial of what the teachers in school saw so clearly. And it was true. So sometimes you can see how we can bend the truth into a lot of problems for everybody. Fortunately, because of being a part of our meditation group, that she did have other means of understanding what was going on, and she dealt with it really well. For many years she kept in contact with me. Her children did very well at school, graduated, had boyfriends, girlfriends, but she moved to England, so we lost touch that way. But the interesting thing about that experience, that she came to see me and said, "Ajahn Brahm, I have actually forgiven him. I'll never want to see him again, but I don't want him to have any more suffering. I know what suffering is like and it's not worth it." When I talk like that to my psychologist, which I have to go and see, that was actually the law. You have free counseling, compulsory. And she said, "My psychologist says I'm in denial all the time. And she won't let me go until I admit that I hate the guy." But I don't. And so in the end, I wrote a letter to the psychologist saying, "Look, it's really wonderful to be able to forgive. I've known the lady a long time. She actually has forgiven. You may think it's unbelievable. She's done that." And it was true. She was being honest with you. So don't keep trying to force her to think she hates the guy. And then after a while, so the psychologist let her be free. She had come to a reconciliation so quickly, much faster than you would expect. That's why the psychologist thought that she was just faking it. So sometimes there's different ways of dealing with these things. You're in denial. There was another lady which I was counseling. She was dying of lung cancer. She thought it was just hay fever, but it got really bad. She went to take a test, and it was lung cancer. She was a very strong lady, and so by the time it was diagnosed, there was basically no treatment. So as soon as she found out the diagnosis, she called me, and I went into the hospital to see her, and we discussed the funeral and everything. She was a really good Thai Buddhist and was totally at ease with her upcoming death. And it was really impressive. Even a free-thinking doctor, when she died, said she died with class. That's what he said. And anyway, when she came, we were discussing her funeral and what to do beforehand, and she was saying, please tell the other Thai people, in our temple, don't come and see me yet. Please tell them, wait till I'm in my coffin dead, they can come and see me as much as they want. And then she started laughing. She was sincere. She wasn't just faking it. So anyway, as soon as I finished just talking to her, as I walked out, one of the nurses grabbed me on the shoulder and pulled me into a room. And it was actually the matron of this hospital. She's this Irish lady. And she said, oh, I'm so glad you've come to the hospital to talk to this lady. She's in denial. She's not admitting that she's going to die. I said, come off it. She would have been making all the funeral preparations. And the matron was just so shocked. And he said, look, she's come to terms, with her life and her upcoming death, and she's at peace with it. It can be done. And just as an aside, she had these 4 children who used to come to my Dhamma school when they were little kids. And she wasn't a wealthy lady, but my goodness, she was one of the best mothers I've ever seen. Her son, Herbert, he became a chef. He didn't go to university, but incredibly smart chef. And they have a TV program in Australia called Master Chef. And he won that. As a layperson, not professional. Well, he's a professional chef now. But he's an incredibly good chef. He was working in schools and then up in the Swan Valley, really sort of top chef. And sometimes he comes to Bodhinyana to cook for us. But he's such a nice fellow. And I saw him just a few weeks ago. Actually, the whole family are just really nice. And I just give that to the mum, who was just amazing. He was only about 14 or 15 when his mum died. This is his mother. When I went to see her, when she was, she wasn't sick yet, she had this huge, I don't know if you'd call it queen bed, king bed, or emperor bed, but it was huge. It took up the whole room, the whole bedroom. You had to squeeze against the wall to get around to the other side of it. A massive bed. I said, what's that for? He said, that's for my son, so he can bring his girlfriend home. And I thought, wow, my mother and father would never allow that. And I thought, wow, you're a great mum. Because otherwise, his son would probably have girlfriends and have sex somewhere. But, she said, well, if he's going to have sex somewhere, I know that, why not in my house? It's for them. He became a great fellow anyway, the whole family. Anyway, I'm supposed to be doing Sutta class, aren't I? Anyway, I'm going to start. Oh yes, I was finishing off the, that's right, it's over here somewhere, the Anapanasati Sutta. I only got to the first part. Here we go. Mindfulness of breathing. So I'll just do the first part again, but I won't focus on it too long. That when the in-breath and out-breath are long, you are aware that they are long. When the in-breath and out-breath are short, you're aware that they are short. You don't have to do both, just one is enough. Somebody reminded me today, sometimes you can count the breath if you want to. That's actually the same with knowing it's long or short. Breathing in one, breathing out one, breathing in two, breathing out two. I did this for a while, breathing out 3, up to 9. Breathing in 9, out 9. And then go back to 1, breathing in 1, out 1, in 2, out 2, in 3, out 3, up to 8. And then from 1 to 7, 1 to 6, 1 to 5, 1 to 4, 1 to 3. You're all paying attention, it's amazing. I never do this anymore. Breathing in 1, out 1, in 2, out 2. Breathing in 1, out 1, and you finish one cycle. One cycle, I think, of 45 breaths. And the reason I don't do it anymore, because sometimes you used to do this in the morning when you were tired and a bit sleepy. And I find out I was doing breathing in 16, out 16. You forgot to stop at 9. At least it told me I wasn't really mindful. But after a while, I was saying it's doing a bit too much. But you can try that if you like. But whatever it is, just to get you in contact with your breathing. Experience the whole of the breath as you breathe in and out, when you learn to calm the breath as you breathe in and out. This is not what you do, it's just what happens, even if you don't have any instructions. Once you start to see the breath, just again, as I said, not just seeing it passing, in, out, in, out, in, out. See from the very beginning to the very end. It actually becomes interesting. And it calms by itself simply because you don't need so much oxygen. Already some people have said that when they get really deep in meditation, it's like they stop breathing. I'm going to die. And I will reassure you, this retreat center has been going for 14, 15 years. Before this, we would teach meditation in other places. Never once have I had anybody die on one of my retreats. Never. I've got a good record. And I don't aim to blemish it at all. You don't die on these retreats. You actually, if you have got any problem, like that guy with a tumor in his nose, it usually heals up. And even if you stop breathing, just let the body stop breathing. Let the body be in control. It knows what to do. What usually happens, you stop breathing, or being aware of any breath, much longer than usual. You don't put any effort into it, and then the body knows what to do, and it starts breathing again. I trust my body. When it wants to breathe, it breathes. And a lot of time I don't tell my body what to breathe, how to breathe. Do you know that a lot of time I don't pay any attention to my breath for hours on end while I'm in bed asleep. The breath knows exactly what to do. If it needs a long breath, it means long breath, short breath, short breath. And I've been pretty healthy all this time because I don't control my breath. I let it happen. And when you relax like that, you find the breath and you become friends. And you breathe in just the right amount. So you don't need to worry if you feel the breath stops. Your job is just to be aware of the breath and let it become delightful, gorgeous, beautiful, soft. That is a sign that the mindfulness is increasing. And I don't know if any of you have actually started experiencing this so far. The food I mentioned should be more delicious than ever before, not because the good cooks, but because your awareness has increased. You pick up more of the tastes. Not just that, but just the seeing nature. Nature is always very beautiful. But when you're mindful after meditation, wow, first meditation retreat I did do, in those boarding houses, we were allowed to go for a walk for 1 hour every morning. And when I went for a walk, because it was, my basic university town, but I spent so much time there, I knew my way around, I would walk to the botanical gardens, round the back. It was just very close by, only 5 minutes. And in one of the back entrances, I just walked in there thinking I'd get some exercise. I never did. There's this most beautiful clump of bamboo in the world was there. And you often notice, if you go to museums and see Chinese watercolors, there's always bamboo in it. It's because bamboo can be so delightful, sensuous, just the way it bends under its own weight and the beautiful smooth arc of one piece of bamboo. And even the leaves, they're not gross, they're very narrow and refined. And the whole thing, because it's light, will sway in the wind. Like dancing, not like a hip-hop, but more like ballet. Beautiful. And so that first clump of bamboo I saw, wow. And I just couldn't go past it. It naturally looked beautiful. And fortunately there was a bench close by. So I sat down on that, because I had enough presence of mind to know if some policeman or park authorities saw this hairy student staring stupidly at this clump of bamboo for about half an hour, they would have thought I was on some kind of drug and taken me away. Of course, I wasn't on any drug, just my awareness was really strong. So I sat down. When I sat down, I went, no one stopped me. And of course, I had to go for breakfast, so I got up and went to breakfast. And I went back there the next day, and the next day, and the next day. It was 8 out of the 9 days of retreat. I visited the most beautiful clump of bamboo in the world. The other day I thought I should get some exercise, so I went down the river. But after seeing that most beautiful clump of bamboo, you kind of take it for granted. You think it's always going to be there for you. And so after going back to university, going to lectures and my social life, which was a bit crazy, then I had a free afternoon. And I thought, I'm now going to get on my bicycle and go and visit the most beautiful clump of bamboo in the world. Really excited. I hadn't seen it for a couple of weeks. And I went into the back gate of the botanical gardens and saw that clump of bamboo. I thought, what on earth is beautiful about this? It was dry, desiccated. Bamboo should not be planted in a country like England. It's just too cold. The climate's not right. When I actually saw it, not having been on not sort of empowered by meditation, it looked just so ordinary and boring. And again, that kind of shocked me. It only looked beautiful when my mindfulness was strong. That's why I hope this happens to you. In this forest here, if you think it's beautiful the first time you come here, it is beautiful, but nowhere near as beautiful as when you have a wonderful meditation. Wow, wow, wow. You get a lot of joy out of this. I do anyway. So, and even each one of you. After a decent meditation, I'd look at you and wow, such kind people, such good people. You're not supermodels. Nevertheless, you can see such beauty in a human being, which you never saw before. It's amazing, some of the stories you tell me. There's no way I can get angry at you, or deny you, or just discriminate against you, or think, well, what have I allowed this person into this retreat for? You see all the goodness and beauty. First I thought that was just because that's, just making it up. But you see that, just like you see the beauty in the bamboo. See the beauty in human beings. Even murderers. There's only 2 murders. And you're not making it up anymore. You see a human being in there suffering immensely. And you can see past that suffering into their goodness. And that is really amazing. So anyway, that's actually one of the reasons why you should not ask me for marriage counselling. Because I look at your partner and say, what's wrong with him? He's a nice guy. You don't live with him. That's true. But what you can see is quite a nice guy underneath all of that. Nice girl. How come you two can't get along? Anyway, let's go back to Anapanasati. So, the in-breath and out-breath along, you were there along. On that occasion, this is actually the Anapanasati Sutta, because the Buddha starts it by saying, when mindfulness of breathing is developed and cultivated, it is of great fruit and great benefit. It's not just because you can enjoy the food more, or you can see beautiful clumps of bamboo when they're not really beautiful, or what goes in the toilet bowl is just, wow. Have you tried that yet? Honestly? Come and experiment. Take a look. What's disgusting about this? Real flat and real aroma. When you, what am I doing? So when you, that's right. When the mindfulness of breathing is developed and cultivated, is a great fruit and great benefit. When mindfulness of breathing is developed and cultivated, it completes the four focuses of mindfulness, satipatthana. You know that sometimes you translate that as the four foundations of mindfulness? Why foundations? I prefer using the word focuses of mindfulness, because that's what you focus mindfulness on the body, on experience, Vedana, on the chitta, the mind, and on the mind objects, especially the important mind objects, like the 7 enlightenment factors and the 5 hindrances. So it's like focuses. A lot of people say, you're not translating properly Ajahn Brahm, it's foundations. Other people might have said that, but you've got the full freedom. Be rebellious. Think for yourself. Once I gave a talk at Dalhousie University in Nova Scotia, and afterwards the Vice-Chancellor, he was also a theoretical physicist, so I was talking on Buddhism, and he said, that was a nice talk. We had tea together afterwards, and I said, what's the motto of the university? I forget what the motto was, but I said, why don't you change that to where everybody thinks the same, nobody thinks at all? And he kind of liked that. That's what universities should be. A bit rebellious, just challenging status quo, where everybody thinks the same, nobody thinks at all. Do you understand that? Do you agree with it? If you agree with it, you don't understand it. Don't just be another Ajahn Brahm clone. We said that today, I should actually announce to you that tomorrow evening have to be in Nollamara giving a talk. So I won't be giving the Q&A tomorrow. So I did twist Ajahn Brahmali's arm. Ajahn Brahmali would do the Q&A tomorrow night. And at first someone else said, he's just too busy. Use a clone. And I said, we're monks, we're not supposed to use cologne. Oh. Thank you for groaning. Okay. Anyway, what's the next? What do I do? Anapanasati. Please apologize, but anyway. The 4 focuses of mindfulness get developed by Anapanasati. And in some traditions, Anapanasati is samatha meditation. And 4 focuses of mindfulness, satipatthana, is vipassana meditation. And what the Buddha is saying here is you're doing both at the same time. You do Anapanasati and it fulfills satipatthana. It's wonderful to do an efficient way, so you don't have to do an Anapanasati course and then go to a Satipatthana course. You do all at the same. It's very efficient. 2 in 1. You know, I still like this 3-in-1 coffee which people give me, because I can take that overseas. It's very easy to handle and very easy to. I shouldn't say that. Please don't anybody get me some. Don't. Otherwise, I have so much I have to give it away. I've got plenty of supplies. But anyway, Anapanasati. Come on, Ajahn Brahm. Anapanasati. So it does both. And already we said the first 4 is, it should be really the first 3. You know when the in-breath and out-breath are long or short. You experience the whole of the breath, and you experience calming the breath as you breathe in and out. Don't try and make the breath calm. It happens naturally. Doing nothing is the best way to calm it. Oops. So after you do that, that's actually called the first satipatthana. You're focusing on body. That's because what you experience, the breath which you are experiencing, you're experiencing as one of the components of this body. It's a thing, and you're experiencing it as through the body sense of touch.
What did you remove from the 4 to become 3?
I'll just combine the first 2. When the in-breath and out-breath are long, you're aware that they are long. Number 2, when in-breath and out-breath are short, you're aware that they are short. I did mention that before, that what if they're neither long nor short, but kind of in the middle, which is the usual way? That's not included. So if you've got an ordinary breath in the middle, it's not long, it's not short, you're not doing Anapanasati. And sometimes people try and make the breath short, make the breath long. And that's just too much control freak. So that's the first 4. And the next 4, you learn to experience joy. That's a weak translation of piti as you breathe in and out. You learn to experience pleasure as you breathe out. That's sukha. You learn, so that's those 2 first of all. You can combine them if you wish. Because all the time when you're meditating, you can't divide piti and sukha. They always come together. There's only one place where you can experience one and not the other. And that's in the 3rd jhana. But anyway, what's happening here is you experience the delightful breath. Breathe in and out. Oh, this is nice. Many of you have done that. If you haven't done it yet, you're going to get there for sure. You just relax and the breath becomes, just so nice. It's really delightful. And as somebody said today, wonderful. It means you'd never feel that you have to do anapanasati, you have to do meditation. You want to do meditation, you look forward to it. It's just enjoyable. And to me that was just so amazing, that a spiritual path is really, really, really enjoyable. Because again, I remember just because I was brought up as a Christian, used to go to the church, there was no upholstery on the pews. For a long time there was no heating, it was just cold, uninviting sort of church built a couple of 100 years before. And that was just the room. And the priest was even worse. If you don't come here every week, you're going to go to hell. At least it's warm down there. Oh, sorry. There was this story, this free thinker in Singapore, and his wife always wanted him to go to church or go to a mosque or just go somewhere to do some good in his life. He was just into business, making money. And so when he really got sick, he said to his wife, look, I've had a reasonable life, but I never did any good in my whole life. I know where I'm going, so please put me in my coffin naked. And his wife said, look, I know that you don't like wasting anything in your life, but at least I can afford a suit for you when you die. And he said, no, naked. I don't want to waste anything. I know I'm going to go down where you don't need any clothes. And so, she abided by her husband's last will. So he's buried naked. Actually not buried, but cremated. And then a few days later, she woke up in her room and someone was knocking on the window. It was his ghost, totally naked. And he said, wife, have you still got that old golf jacket I used to wear and those trousers I used for gardening? He said, yes. Can I have them, please? Why? He said, I thought you went down to hell. You don't need clothing in hell. It's too hot. He said, yes, but I did go down to hell, but there's so many rich people down there, they've installed air conditioning. Someone enjoyed that joke. Anyway, Anapanasati. And if I'm just really bubbly this afternoon, or even this morning telling lots of jokes and stuff, it's nothing to do, I didn't have too much tea or coffee. I'm just being honest with you, I had too much deep meditation. That really gets you going. Lots and lots of energy. So sorry about that. I'll try and do less meditation for tomorrow. Anyway, so you experience joy and pleasure, this delightful breath. And when you learn to experience the mental formation of this piti sukha as you breathe in and out, and when you learn to see this mental formation calm as you breathe in and out, on that occasion you are mindful of Vedana, having restrained the 5 hindrances, energized, fully aware of the purpose and mindful. For being mindful of the pleasure associated with this stage of breath meditation is being mindful of experience. Now, first of all, the pleasure of it. Again, it's wonderful to know that you can come to a temple and have lots of laughter and lots of joy, and it's not just superficial, it's very powerful and very deep. And that's one of the things I really loved about Buddhism from the start. And every time I made a mistake, I think I mentioned this to you, that once I had to ask Ajahn Chah for some soap to use in the shower place. I'd run out, and you always have to ask it from Ajahn Chah. It's only a small monastery then. He was everything got given to him. And so he had this big water jar where someone would offer him some requisites, he'd just dump them in there. So I needed some soap. What he would normally do was look in there and find some soap and just give it to you. But I had to ask in Thai. And the word for soap in Thai is sabu. I said sapo. Very close, I thought. But when he said, sapo, what do you want sapo for? He said, to wash. And that's where he burst out laughing, because Sapporo meant pineapple. I'd mispronounced it. And what he heard is that I wanted some pineapple to wash with. He never let me forget that. He would tell all the visitors, these people from England, they're so high class, they don't use soap like we do in Thailand, they're much more refined than that, they use pineapple. And he would laugh so much. And I think I mentioned in one of the interviews, I always, because I was so stupid, and the Westerners were stupid as well, we gave so much laughter to Ajahn Chah. He never scolded us, said, stupid, go and learn Thai properly. It was always laughter. I thought it was a wonderful response to stupidity. Someone just makes a big mistake. Laughs very easy. You learn from that without feeling ashamed. Because he obviously does lots of meditation, and the Piti Sukha was strong. So you will learn to experience the mental formation of Piti Sukha. The first time I read that, I just went past that. Didn't see it's important. This is how the mind is now experiencing the breath. You're experiencing it through a different sense store. You're not experiencing it as a feeling anymore. It's as a knowing, is a strong mind sense. And that's where the beauty and delight come from. What you're doing is you're turning on the mind. You are just cultivating the mental awareness of the breath. And it's delicious. And I've said this many times before, if you get to that experience, just a delightful breath, you're hooked. I call it the pivot point of meditation. Once you're enjoying meditating, you'll just carry on sitting there, no effort, and the delight will get stronger and stronger until the next 4 stages of Anapanasati arise. Number 9. When you learn to experience the citta. Citta is a Pali word for mind. As you breathe in and out. When you learn to brighten the nimitta, sampasadana citta. It's an interesting word. Sampasadana means actually to bring faith, delight, joy, confidence, to this nimitta, because that's real. When you first see nimittas, those lights in the mind, oh, what the heck is this? Is this me? Am I imagining this? What should I do? Just leave it alone. Just be with it, and when it's just there, after a while, it just stays with you and becomes a beautiful friend. It's the confidence to let go enough and realize that's all you need to do to have these images in the mind become really, really strong. And it's true, you may not have perfect understanding of Buddhism. You may not have great sila. Your precepts may be a bit wonky. Doesn't matter, there's always part of you which is really, really beautiful. You look at that, and that sort of dominates, and you get into wonderful nimittas. Another thing I'll say about these nimittas, though, and I say this because I mentioned it to a couple of people, but you haven't really responded. One of the lights you should see in the nimitta, the colours, it doesn't matter which colour it is. It can be all sorts of colours. The strangest colour was this gentleman who had a black nimitta. Not just black like no light at all, but black like coal. And it was just so beautifully black, more black than anything he'd ever seen in his life, like black satin. It was just so clear and so beautiful. And the other things he said about it made me very clear, yeah, that's a nimitta. I've never had a black nimitta. But it was more black than any black you could ever see. Not an ordinary black, a deep black, super black. And that's one of the signs it's a real nimitta, because the colour is like nothing you see in the world with your eyes. It's like more yellow than yellow. That's the best way you can describe it. Like a blue which you can never see on a painting or even on the sky at sunset or in the early morning. Deeper than that. But really you're seeing it. And to keep you interested, it was a few years ago, not this year or last year, maybe the year before or the year before that, when I was meditating, I told all the monks about it afterwards. I had this really weird nimitta. I call it complicated nimitta. I knew it was a nimitta because it was yellow. And it was like a yellow which you can never see in the real world. It was really deep and powerful colour. But it had a shape to it. And I recognised the shape straight away. Garfield the cat. I've been reading too many cartoons in the newspaper. It's one of my favourite cartoons, Garfield. But anyway, I realised that straight away and I burst out laughing, and that was the end of that meditation. It was a real nimitta though, because the colour was just nothing I could see in the world. What I should have done was just go to one part of it which was beautiful. But those colours, what colour was it? I don't care what colour it is, but it's the intense colour. Like nothing you can compare it to in the world. It's kind of blue, but more blue than blue. More white than white. And that becomes experiencing the citta. When you experience this citta, this is the 9th stage of the anapanasati, you're not watching the breath anymore. These lights in the mind are just way too powerful. You're still breathing in and out, but this is the result. The breath has done its job. It's taken you to the nimitta, so now the breath just is put aside for a while. Just the same as this was actually from the Samanyapala Sutta. King Ajatasattu wanted to see the Buddha, so he went in a chariot to the bamboo grove. And he went as far as a chariot could take him to the bamboo grove. And he had to get out of the chariot and walk, in his sandals, shoes, to the hall in the bamboo grove. And he went as far as the shoes could take him, into the entrance to the hall. And he had to take the shoes off to enter the hall, and he went as far as his feet could take him into the hall. And that's where he asked where the Buddha was. And then his attendant, the Ajivaka, the doctor, said, that one against the pillar facing east, that's the Lord Buddha. He had to use those different conveyances. Each could go only as far as it was allowed to take him, and then change the conveyance from the chariot to the shoes to the bare feet, and the bare feet to take him into the hall. And I use that simile because that's like meditation. You use the body awareness enough just to relax the body, and then awareness of the breath to get even deeper into letting go of the body and close to the mind. Then awareness in the mind of citta, and then from the awareness of the citta, you don't carry your shoes into the hall, you leave the breath outside. And then once you have the nimitta, then you can get the jhanas. And just one word about the jhanas. Nicholas knows I love saying this. It does give me goosebumps every time. Once you experience even the first jhana, the Buddha described it, the pleasure of it. He gave it a word, sambodhisukha. Sambodhisukha, what does that mean? Enlightenment happiness. It's not enlightenment, but it's so close. The Buddha deigned to give it that word. You get a taste of what it's like to be enlightened. Enlightenment, happiness. Just even in the first jhana, let alone what's to come. And every one of you are capable of experiencing that for yourself. Keep on meditating, almost guaranteed it will happen. You'll get a jhana. But sometimes saying exactly what it feels like blows your mind. That's what we used to say in the 60s, blows your mind. I think that's the most accurate description that I can give. Anyway, so you learn to experience this nimitta, and then to brighten the nimitta, or bring joy to the chitta. I call it sometimes nimitta, call it chitta, because the nimitta is how you experience the mind. Beautiful light. You learn to settle the nimitta, to still it. The word is samadhahang chittang. Because if you get nimittas, if you ever experience them, first of all it may be a bit dull. You need to get it really bright. And just a word of warning that sometimes, it happened to me, it happens to many, when you get nimittas coming up for the first time, they get incredibly bright. And sometimes I stopped, because I thought, I'll go blind watching something like this. It's like brighter than the sun at noontime. And then I realized, this is not actually using your eyes to see this. This is a mental experience, an emotional experience. It's just similar to a sun. You don't go blind at all. Yeah, I do have to wear glasses, but that's because of old age, not because of nimittas. So you then still that mind. Make it perfectly still. And there was a time here in Bodhinyana Monastery even, I remember this, I was wondering, how can you still this nimitta? The nimitta was bright right in front of you, but it was always moving. Simple, but moving. It never stayed still. And then one morning, like as men do, you had to shave. So I was in the mirror looking at my reflection in the mirror, shaving. We are allowed to look at a mirror to shave and also to do push-ups. And just it kind of hit me that, the image in the mirror was moving. And just to prove it to myself, I just held the mirror perfectly still with my hands, grasped it and tried to keep the mirror still. But the image in the mirror was still moving. And it was obvious. The image in the mirror was moving because I was moving. When I stopped moving, this idea of a watcher just keeping like being a statue, when I stopped moving, then the image stopped moving. And that was my key. As strange as it was, I was really stupid, I should have figured that out beforehand. When I was meditating and stopped doing anything, stopped moving, just was still, like a statue, then the nimitta became still. And the more still it becomes, the more it builds up the energy. The only simile which I could think of was holding a magnifying glass during a sunny day on a piece of paper. If you keep moving the magnifying glass around, you don't get the effect of burning. You keep it perfectly still. And then the focus builds up a lot of heat and it sets it alight. So that was the 9th, 10th and 11th stages of Anapanasati. And then the last, 12th stage, they call it Vimochayang Jittang. And that's a word which means like free the mind. What it means in practice, because they use that word, or the noun form of that word, vimocha, as the experience of the jhanas. The 12 stages of Anapanasati, you enter jhana. You can't help it, whether you want to or not. I love saying that because a lot of people say, well, it's a bit much for me. One of our members, he went to Sri Lanka and there was a teacher there who was a bit of a fraud, and he was told by the teacher that he just attained to be a stream winner. And he rang home to his wife, I'm a stream winner now. And a week later, the teacher told him, yeah, he's now a once returner. So he told his wife, and she was very happy that he's now a once returner. And then he rang his wife again another couple of weeks. He'd become a non-returner, the third stage of enlightenment. And that's when his wife got very fierce. You get on the next plane and come home straight away. I don't want you to get enlightened before you finish working to pay off the mortgage of our house. He wasn't a non-returner or anything like that, but just that's what his teacher had told him. And his wife, being here in Perth, never realised what was going on and just got scared. He didn't mind him becoming enlightened, but not until he'd paid off all the debts. Otherwise you'd be stuck with it. That's true. Anyway, the 12th stage is you learn to enter the jhanas as you breathe in and out, but it never actually says that you are watching the breath. On these occasions you are mindful of the citta, having restrained the 5 hindrances, energized, fully aware of the purpose and mindfulness, and mindful. The third satipatthana, being aware of the mind. I just can't see how people who know the Pali, know the suttas, can never imagine you can do that without a jhana. You don't know what the mind is, what it's capable of. And even in the suttas they say that mindful of the citta means knowing one in jhana and not in jhanas. These are powerful. And I say you can do this. Lay people do these. You can do these. Doesn't matter woman or man. Can I say something anecdotal though? It does seem, this is anecdotal, that more lay women experience jhanas than lay men. This is just all the people I've taught over these years. And sometimes I wondered why. And one of the reasons why is to do this meditation, sometimes the men are too analytical. The way into jhanas, into meditation, is much more, for need of a better word, feely. Your emotions, and you have courage that those emotions are important. The piti sukha, delightful breath, beautiful breath, whatever you wish to call it, and these powerful mind states of the nimittas, and how you can just love them and just care for them and be with them without trying to control them. Of course, in that stereotyping, and mostly because of the cultures of our modern world, of women being carers and men being the doers. But nevertheless, so far, I found more females can get into the jhanas. But then the men catch up afterwards. Because after you've gone into the jhanas, the next stages of meditation are understanding what they mean. This is the vipassana, the insight. And so it says here, where is it? Here we go. No time. When you learn to explore anicca in breath meditation, what does anicca mean? Of course not. People always feel that they know these things, and that's the reason why they don't fully understand them. Anicca impermanence is much deeper than that. Because anicca, it's like, imagine you're watching TV at home, and then the TV program turns off. Is that anicca? That's superficial anicca. Imagine you're watching the TV program turns off, the screen is blank, but then the whole TV disappears. It just vanishes into nowhere. That's not covered by the warranty. That's anicca. When things which aren't supposed to disappear do. Things which have always been there. And the simile of the tadpole. I've been a monk a long time now, so I have to make up similes. And these are similes which aren't in the sutras, but they're valid. Once there was a little tadpole in Singapore, and she was born in this pond in the temple. She was a very clever little tadpole, so she went to the tadpole school. She graduated from the primary school, went to high school, did really well. She just loved chemistry. And so after graduating in the high school in the pond, in the Singapore temple, then she went to the university in the pond. And there she graduated in hydrology. And sometimes she'd even listen to the monks in the temple, because they was on the loudspeakers, talk about the meaning in the Abhidhamma of what water is. She became an expert on water. But how on earth could she know what water is? She was born in water, lived all her life in water, knew nothing except water. Even though she studied it, just her understanding was very conceptual. But the advantages of the little tadpole was that one day, to her surprise, when she started to mature, started actually to grow legs and arms. They weren't there at the beginning of her life. Now she grew these appendages. She didn't know what they were. She was growing up. She was becoming a frog. And once she became a frog, one day she didn't really know what she was doing. She jumped out of the pond. And now she was squatting on dry land. And that was like an experience she had never had before. Dry land. She'd only known being in water. That was weird. The advantages of being a frog, this was physical, so she couldn't just jump back again straight away. Many of you, when you see a nimitta, you just go back to the breath or go back to what you know is real life, because you get afraid. Even though that maybe frog was a little afraid, but she couldn't jump back straight away, so she just stayed there in wonder. This thing called dry land. And if she was smart enough, she was a very smart little frog, she realized that something which had always been there, it had been there all the time, so she couldn't notice it. She could study it, but she didn't really know it, because it was always there, always around her. Now it was gone. Now I understand what water was. It's anicca. It's not always there. Inconstant. Like saying it's impermanent is, kind of okay, but for many people impermanence means it just comes and goes, Never it disappears for many minutes, many hours sometimes. So you experience in the first jhana the 5 senses in the body gone. Do you know what that feels like? For most of you, you've had the body all your life, obviously. Your body. Imagine what it must be like if the body just vanishes. You're still there, but the body is gone. Now you know what it means as the body being anicca. And it's also the fact that once the body goes in deep meditation, you soon realize that that's where the pleasure of the first jhana comes from, being free of your body. That's especially when you get old. The Buddha said when he was old, that's the only time he could actually be free of the major part of suffering, the bodily feelings of suffering. And if any of you have any sicknesses, irritations, multiple sclerosis, or anything like that, imagine just actually being free of all of that for a while, totally free and blissed out. Wow, amazing. So anyway, that is where you can understand what anicca is. And I've said this before, but as you go deep in meditation, it's like you jump further and something else which has always been there is now gone. Your will. I've said this before, but that's an important thing to understand, is anicca. It's not always there. You can't always make choices. The buttons are no longer there. It's totally gone, vanished. No, profoundly gone. And sometimes you feel you can't make choices because you're too dull or sleepy or whatever. But this is, you look around, you're perfectly awake and alert. But you can't do anything. Not you stop doing it, you choose not to do anything. That shows the will is still there, you can choose. You can't choose. Weird, because you've never experienced that before. I try to describe that. That's what happens in the second jhana. Totally still, you don't move. You're like frozen, like a diamond. I don't say ice, because ice is kind of nice, but a diamond is valuable, it's beautiful. The beauty of stillness, and you can't do anything. Just until the anicca wears out, or the anicca actually does its job and just things change again. But it's a very deep anicca, a lot of things disappearing. And that's just the second jhana. I usually only go as far as that, because what goes afterwards is just the joy and happiness. Do you want to let go of the joy and happiness? Actually, the piti and sukha disappear. In the fourth jhana, that piti sukha is supposed to have gone. But even the Buddha was inconsistent there. He said it's upekkha, equanimity, but I don't like that translation anymore. I usually say contentment. Because you know that contentment is delightful. Yeah, you don't want anything, but it's lovely not to want anything. Because you don't need anything. So this becomes the joy of the equanimity, what the Buddha called upekkha sukha. It's happiness all the way. And if you really want to know what happiness is, sometimes I like challenging people. Who knows what happiness is? Who are the ones who indulge in happiness? The meditating monks and nuns. That's why I love being a monk. I indulge to the max. Anyway, just going to say, I think it's over here. Okay, here it is. So, quoting from the sutta here. This is one of my favourites. This is the Sampasatana Sutta. He's talking to the monk Chunda, the Buddha. There are, Chunda, these 4 kinds of life devoted to pleasure. I'm talking about pleasure now, not nimittas. There are 4 kinds of life devoted to pleasure that are entirely conducive to repulsion, to fading away, cessation, peace, realization, awakening to nibbana. What are these 4 kinds of life devoted to pleasure which lead to enlightenment? The 4 jhanas. So if devotees of other sects should say that the Buddhists are addicted to these 4 forms of pleasure seeking, they accuse you of just seeking pleasure, they should be told, yes, I'm addicted to seeking pleasure. I love saying things like that, because I'm not supposed to say them. For they will be speaking correctly about you. Then some people might further ask you, what benefits can you expect from a life attached to these 4 forms of pleasure seeking? You should reply, stream winning, once returning, non-returning, or full awakening. These are the benefits that you can expect from being attached to these 4 forms of pleasure seeking. I'll use that word expect carefully. Because you can't really expect these jhanas to happen. If you expect them, you block them. But once those jhanas are there, because the causes are in place, it's a matter of time. And where is it said here? Yeah. This is from the Dhammapada 3, verse 372. There is no jhana for one without wisdom. There is no wisdom for one without jhana. For one who has both jhana and wisdom, they are in the presence of Nibbana. So said the Buddha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So if anyone got any objections to that, the questions tonight, I'll be here. And any other questions after tonight, Ajahn Brahm has to face them. Okay. So please, it's 5:14. You can have some. Oh, you got some. Okay. Please talk.
Thank you, Ajahn. Ajahn, would you for tomorrow? Would you like to cancel the interviews and move up the Sutta class to 3 to 4 or so?
No.
Because you have to go rush to Nola Mara.
I don't rush to Nolamara, the car rushes.
Yeah.
I just sit in it and just be nice and peaceful. Nothing I can. This is the last,
It's
basically
okay?
the last day.
Okay.
Because on Saturday we just do a morning session, and we don't do anything in the afternoon because we've got to get ready for the Katina. So the retreat finishes on Saturday morning, so I want to try and fit in as much as possible. Thank you for that offer, but I refuse it.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Last opportunity to do so. But please, especially tomorrow morning may be okay, but in the afternoon, just please try and keep the interviews to 10 minutes. If you can. You probably can't. But there we go.